Hi, welcome back to the channel, and today we are going to be looking at the Suzuki Gixxer 150 SF. Five years ago, I wanted to buy myself a little commuter to take me from the station to my office in Johannesburg, and all I needed was a small 150cc motorcycle at most, because the distance was only about 5 kilometers. Now at the time, Suzuki brought out the 150cc SF, and I just had to have one of those because it was a spectacular looking bike for such a small capacity bike. In fact, it turned out that I was one of the first people in South Africa to buy myself one of those. Now that bike served me extremely well. I did about 8,000 Ks on that thing with not one day of trouble. Now for 2021, Suzuki have updated the Gixxer, and this is it. As it turned out, it was just a styling exercise, because under the skin of this bike is still my old 150 SF. And when I got onto this bike, it felt instantly familiar. It's still the same engine, it's still the same gearbox, it's still the same suspension, same brakes, same wheels, same everything. Now you could argue that if it's not broken, it doesn't need fixing. But I think Suzuki missed an opportunity here to update one of the small gripes that I had with this bike, and that is its top speed. This bike only came with a 5-speed gearbox, and even with my weight on it, I could put this bike up to its top speed of about 120 km an hour with no trouble at all. So I think if Suzuki have just added another gear to it, or just changed the gearing of the final sprocket or something, just to give it that little bit extra oomph, that would have made the world of difference. What I did find though is it feels like the bike's going into the ref limiter, but it's actually not. I think the carburetor just can't supply enough fuel to the engine, because the bike sputters at around 120, but when I got to a decent downhill, I could feather the throttle and I could see 130 km an hour on this bike. So I think it's doable. So I think if you play around with sprockets, you might be able to get yourself a little bit better riding motorcycle. So if the bike is underneath still the same bike as it used to be, what have Suzuki done to update this one? Well, they have gone for LED headlights, and there's also now a brand new LED taillight. They have also redesigned the dash, or reconfigured it. It's still got exactly the same amount of information on it. It's just now displayed or presented to you in a different fashion. They've also made a change to the handlebars. These are now clip-ons. The previous version had just this normal straight pipe, and the previous version put you in a more upright position, whereas this pitches you forward. You are in a much more racy position on this bike. Suzuki have also added a black accent on the tank, and the seat is now a two-piece affair, where the previous version was just a single seat. Suzuki have also retained the Kickstarter on this bike, but they've done away with the fuel tap that was on this side. The fuel tap saved me a couple of times where I ran out of fuel. You could just put it on reserve, whereas now they say that you must look at your dash and you will be reminded of when you are running on empty. Now in terms of riding, I think the Suzuki Gixxer is a solid and honest motorcycle. It's a lot of fun to ride because it's a small bike. You can ride it as fast as you can, or as fast as the bike will go, and it will handle anything you throw at it. Also, when you're riding through traffic, the bike is nice and nimble. It's narrow enough for you to get through, and it's sprightly enough for you to get ahead and stay ahead of traffic. The Suzuki Gixxer SF then is a beautifully executed exterior, and underneath you'll find a solid, reliable commuter that will not let you down. Also in South Africa, the price is very competitive. So if you are looking for a small commuter that just gets you from A to B and at least makes you look good while you are doing it, then the Suzuki Gixxer SF is just what you need.